From 1939 to 1941, the British planned to invade Norway. Operation Wilfred, or Plan R4. A plan to invade Norway with a view to cutting off a strategic source of iron ore from the Nazis in neutral Sweden was all too rapidly overtaken by events. Since the time of Bismarck, blood and iron had been the chief ingredients of Germany's foreign policy. The young German, said Hitler, should be as hard as Krupp steel. But metals were of much more than symbolic importance for a country setting out to pursue a strategy of blitzkrieg. The Nazi war effort would be anemic without abundant supplies of steel. Yet Germany's home-produced ore supplies were scant. As of the beginning of 1940, the French fields of Lorraine looked likely to be out of bounds. No one could have guessed how quickly France would fall when the time came. Germany already imported ore from Sweden's Arctic Kiruna and Malmberget regions, some of it coming east and south across the Baltic, but much came via the Norwegian port of Narvik. The Allies too had their eye on Sweden's ore, though less for their own sakes than for that of denying it to Germany. The outbreak of the Winter War in November 1939 was opportune. Finland's plight seemed the perfect pretext for an expedition through Norway and Sweden, ostensibly in support of the Finns, which would enable them to occupy the vital ore fields and supply lines. But the Scandinavian states saw straight through this pretended mercy dash and refused permission to send troops across their territory. Shadowboxing. Winston Churchill then came up with an alternative plan, or, rather, two. The first, named Operation Wilfred, was to involve the mining of Norwegian ports. The hope was that this would provoke a German reaction, which could in turn be used to justify an Allied invasion of Norway, codenamed R4. In its wake, British and French forces would quickly be in a position to push on into northern Sweden. Anglo-French plans were well afoot by late March in anticipation of a German invasion. Ironically, this came on the 9th of April 1940 with the German launch of Operation Wilfred, which was justified by the widespread and by no means misplaced belief that the Allies had themselves been planning to take Norway. Led by Nikolaus von Falkenhorst under Hitler's direction, the invaders came at Norway up through Denmark and from the North Sea. Sweden, though still unoccupied, was virtually encircled. Plan R4 was redundant now, of course, but with so many men mobilized and transport and equipment marshalled, the Allies were at least in a position to help Norway defend itself. The signs were hopeful at first, but the Anglo-French forces had to be whisked away within weeks to assist in the defense of France. The Altmark Incidents. Norwegian neutrality had been viewed with suspicion by both sides from the start. Winston Churchill, always skeptical, was outraged in February 1940 when Norwegian patrol boats let a naval supply ship at the Altmark sail through their country's waters, with only the most token checks on the pretense that it was voyaging on civil business. This, despite the fact that several British prisoners of war were captive in the hold. On the 16th of February, a party from HMS Cossack boarded the Altmark to free the men. Norway's protests were swept aside. The incident served to lift British morale, so swashbuckling was the boarding that cutlasses were used.